Welcome everybody to the WMMA Math Podcast brought to you by WombatSports.com. I'm Mark the Q. I'm your host. Very privileged to have an undefeated Bantamweight fighter. She just recently have a win over at Invicta. Really showing really a lot of promise as well as we need a lot more Bantamweight fighters in the division, as it were. Monica Franco is on with us right now. How you doing, Monica?
Doing good, doing great. I mean, as great as can be in, tough times and situations like this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It must be almost tough just because, how wonderful Hawaii is. It's meant to be, people are meant to go outdoors in
Right.
Hawaii. So it's, kind of almost, I'd say almost kind of frustrating that, you can't get out as much as you possibly can. I'm pretty sure the weather's pretty nice out there at the moment too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the weather is pretty nice. I mean, it is tough not being able to, go and train with your teammates on a daily basis and all that stuff. But I'm still very grateful because I still get to hit the beaches and I do some beach conditioning over there. And, that's been okay. And everybody that I know and care about within my, whether it's my ohana or my friends, everybody's been safe thus far. And I, can only pray and hope that it continues to stay that way. So, I mean, we did lose a lot of things because of this pandemic, but just looking at the silver lining, being grateful for the things that we can be. So,
yeah, you were able to fight just before everything kind of happened too, and you were able to make your Invicta debut. So, at least we have that, and it must have been fun for you to be out in Kansas City, being able to fight out there. How was the trip out there for you in terms of it? I know Hawaii is a little bit more of a long distance haul for you.
Right. Well, besides the fact that it was extremely cold and I was a little bit tripping out when I seen some falling snow happening. It was a great experience. The people, the promotion, being able to finally meet my manager who's been managing me for so long, my friend and manager, face to face, and all these other incredible people that was part of my journey. It was an amazing experience, and I mean, I have nothing but good things to say about that trip. And, it was good. Definitely a long flight, but it was worth it.
How was it for you in order to, during your weight cut? I mean, was it, having somebody there that has been there before and kind of knows things as well? I'm pretty sure that helped, but, how was it for you to kind of, do your weight cut, after getting in and, at least having some kind of, I guess, some information about, what if you needed something, where to go get it, or, what things you may have in order for that weight cut? I mean, how was it for you?
Actually, I got to work with a nutritionist for this one, and it went really well because I just basically did what she told me to do, which made my life easier. So this was by far the easiest weight cut I've ever had. And I can't speak enough good things of her because she was actually there for another fighter as well. So she was, going back and forth between the two of us and giving us our meals and checking in on us, and then I also, had the help of, again, my manager and stuff like that, who was helping with the weight cut as well. So it went really, really well. So I highly recommend using a nutritionist for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that seems to be the thing right now too, is that a lot of people are, especially when they return to the pro ranks, it's kind of important for them to maintain, a healthy weight cut. So it seems like a lot of people are going that direction, especially once they turn pro.
Sure.
Yeah, we just had the bantamweight Phoenix Rising tournament. Did you obviously probably had an opportunity to watch where the division is right now in terms of Invicta? I mean, tell me a little bit about what your thoughts on for that Phoenix tournament, and kind of just looking out for some of the up and coming bantamweights in the division.
There's a lot of good talent in there for sure. I didn't finish off the final fight because I watched it in pieces. So, I mean, there's a lot of great talent, a lot of good matchup. I think that would be good for me. As far as like how they run things with the tournament style, that's a little bit tricky because you gotta definitely advance, but you don't want to, press it to where you're, blowing yourself out and then you have nothing left for, the final round if you make it there. But I've seen a lot of good stuff. Every fighter, provides something different. So, I mean, I feel like I match up well with any one of them, and it would require a different game plan for every fighter because that's just what it is. It's a human chess match in there. So what you do, like what I did with Tina, isn't necessarily something I would do against somebody like, Serena or, against someone like, who's the girl that won the tournament? I forget her name. Do you remember her name?
It was, shoot, now you're putting me on the spot.
It starts with a Tanisha. Is it Tanisha?
I think I remember it was, shoot. Yeah, I'm trying to think here. Give me 1 second, I can look it up.
I think that's who it was. But, I mean, just getting back to what I was saying, it comes down to making the adjustments kind of on the fly when you're in there. You can watch as much footage as you want, but, I speak from experience. You watch my old footage, I was a completely different fighter when I fought against Tina. So, with that being said, I do still feel like there's different strategies that can be applied and different ways to win a fight. And I feel like any one of those matchups would be fun and exciting to have. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, it was Tanisha Tennant. I looked it up real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, you're correct. In terms of tournament style, it's one of those things where a lot of people just say that they kind of, don't study as much if you're going into a tournament like this. Just, work on your own style and kind of go up with that as well. Speaking of that tournament, also on that card were a couple other fights that actually engaged in open scoring. What's your opinion on open scoring? What did you think about it?
I was like, me and Jason had talked about this, and there's a lot of back and forth going, and I felt like if the open scoring is there, then maybe people would have a tendency, if they're winning 2 rounds to none, then fighters would have a tendency to, ease off a little bit and play it safe in the 3rd round. But it didn't seem to be the case when I was watching the 2 open scorings. And on top of that too, the fighters don't see the floor, the corners do. So then it's like, I guess it's up to the corners whether or not they want to tell them, whether or not they're up or not. So, I still feel like because it's brand new, there has to be more fights to happen and to take place for me to get more of a feel of what I really think about it. Because I wouldn't want fighters to just ease off of the gas pedal because they're up 2 rounds. That's my main concern. But again, this is still fairly new, so I got to see more fights to get a more solid opinion of where I stand on it. I know Max is a huge fan of the open scoring, and I can see his, reasonings for it because he's right. There's a lot of, every other sport you see a score, So, I get where he's coming from with that, but I still got to see a little bit more to make a more yeah, better opinion on it.
Yeah, I was talking to Shamir about this, and I think really, to tell you the truth, I mean, I like it the fact that the fighter doesn't get to see, but the coach does, because then there's a relationship between the coach and the fighter, and if it ends up being that if the coach is worried that they're up 2 rounds, and they're going to let off on the gas pedal because they're up 2 rounds, then it's up.
Sure.
The coach could say nothing about it. Just give a game plan or whatever, and then just have her go out. And then some fighters don't like the idea of having the idea that they're up 2 rounds in the third, or whatever. So
sure.
there is that kind of relationship between the coach and the fighter, and how the coach perceives what the fighter needs to know. So it's kind of an interesting thing, and I'm interested to see where this kind of goes. Once we get a little bit further. Personally, I mean, part of it's that, part of it's just I want to know what the judges are thinking. Because because if you're doing something where you're getting takedowns but you're not doing anything but you're still up ahead, that tells me that the judges are scoring a lot more for the takedowns and all that as well. So, and as much as there's a set amount of rules that they have to follow, it is somewhat of an art for them to do it. And I think that, I think the underutilized thing on the scorecard is the comments at the bottom. Because they hardly ever write anything in the bottom. I would love at least a sentence or two why they thought that the person won the fight. So we have kind of an established thing where, if you know who's going to be judging the fight, then you kind of know a different strategy to go in to kind of impress what the judges are. But that's just my theory. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, Hawaii has been such a great kind of proving ground for quite a few female fighters as well. I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you've pretty much lived in Hawaii most of your life, haven't you, Monica?
Yeah, all my life.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, there has been a tradition of teaching women judo at some portion in some of the schools down there as well. I mean, tell me a little bit about that. It seems like there's a kind of a history in terms of especially with Hawaiian women, getting into martial arts early, and quite a few wrestlers out of Hawaii have actually made Olympic teams as well. I mean, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I wish I was more educated on that because I don't necessarily know actually as far as the whole judo and wrestling thing. I'm sorry, I wish I did, but I don't. I mean, but as far as if I can just kind of go off of just like the talent pool in general, yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of fighters that have been in Invicta and are in the UFC and in ONE FC. And there's just a strong tradition and history of fighters in general that have this, I guess, just fighting spirit in us, to just go out and scrap, and every, fighter that came out of here, the different styles, and you mentioned like the wrestling and what have you. If I can think off the top of my head, ONE FC champion Angela Lee, I think she has a decent, or not decent, excuse me. I think she has a good, I believe, wrestling and jiu-jitsu background, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too sure about the judo part. And then I know Raquel Pauluhi, she did a lot of wrestling as well, and I know she's heavy into jiu-jitsu now. And then you got Rachel Osovich, who came from a wrestling background as well. So those are some of the girls that I fought as an amateur and that I know their background was was wrestling. And I think Rachel was a little bit of judo too, if I'm not mistaken. But that's as far as my knowledge goes. I'm sorry, I wish I had more for you. But all really great fighters in their own right and tough opponents. And I mean, I'm happy for their success and where it's led them. And, that's what I got to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, and I might be a little bit up on you on that just because I've researched the amateur wrestling portion of it a little bit longer.